Welcome to Purpose After Sports, where we interview athletes to share their post-sport journeys and explore how they are reinventing what it means to compete. Today we have Emma Utterback.
Hello.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, really successful basketball career. I want to start from the beginning with you. What was little Emma like? How did we get into basketball?
Oh my gosh. So actually funny story. When I first started basketball, and you know how like you couldn't steal the ball from the other player. So I used to just play chase and tag with the person, and well, I don't know why, it was just like the competitive nature of it.
Yeah.
I always like loved the idea of competing against someone, and at the time I just didn't even care about the ball. I was just chasing the person because they were following me. I'm like, why are you following me? And then we were just like running around. But I fell in love with it from the very beginning, and I tried others. I mean, I did other sports. I was a 3-sport athlete, played soccer, ran track, but basketball always stuck with me.
Yeah.
The passion was always there, never went away. Loved practice, loved the extra workouts. It's just, I don't know, the passion has literally always been there. So, been in the gym. I want to say I was like around since 5 years old. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And then through junior high and high school, kind of walk through your career. Did you still play those three sports or try to hone in on basketball?
Yeah, so I quit soccer at the end of my 8th grade year, going into high school. And then track, I only ran in middle school.
Okay.
And I think once I hit high school, I was like, okay, I want to be a Division I basketball player. So it was kind of like, now I got to really pick up the training, eliminate the soccer and the track, and just really, really focus on like the grind to get to play at the collegiate level, because I knew it was going to take a lot more commitment. Yeah.
And who was kind of the inspiration for maybe sports or basketball?
Well, I have an older sister, and just growing up, I always looked up to her, and she obviously started playing basketball first. And I think just watching her, there was always like that passion to kind of want to be like her.
Yeah.
And then I kind of found that love once I started. So I really looked up to her. I would say that's what started it. But, growing up, my dad played football, but also basketball, and always had basketball on the TV, and huge Jordan fan. So I was always 23 because of Jordan. So it was kind of like, I would say all those reasons kind of all in one.
Okay. And how did D1 become a topic? Was it something that you saw, a dream you knew you wanted to accomplish, or were you starting to get looks that you knew was possible?
Yeah, there was this show called The Journey. It was it Big Ten or Sport? I don't remember exactly the network it was on.
Yeah.
But they would go to different Division I schools, and they would just basically, it was kind of like a vlog, this day's vlog, but back then, like, just go through a practice, a game day. They would interview players, and it just seemed so intense. And I just loved the atmosphere, and they were really dedicated. They were really committed, and I just loved that grind aspect.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had that within me, and so I felt like I could get to that. But I knew obviously it was going to take a lot of work. Beginning of high school, when I obviously started getting some looks, and the first one was a Division I to Cleveland State. So then I was like, okay, so I can get it. Now I just got to keep grinding and see which one's like the best fit for me. So.
Okay. And let's talk about, it's not an easy task, right? You have that dream, you have that goal, you want to get there. What are the late nights? What is high school like?
Yeah.
Ups and downs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kinsey grew up with me, and there was a lot of times I had to sacrifice going and hanging out with the girls, or having to leave really, really early for a practice, a training session. There were times I couldn't go out during the weekends because I had a tournament.
Yeah.
And, AAU, you have tournaments every single weekend in a random gym in some random city or random high school. And you just would kind of feel a little bit out of the mix.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think what kept my passion alive was I didn't let go of that too much. I feel like I needed to have that social aspect, or else I'd be way too hard on myself. I was still able to enjoy other things in my life.
Yeah.
But actually starting freshman year, I was on JV, and I dressed varsity, but I didn't really get in. There was a really heavy class that was older than me.
Okay.
My sister's class. There was 9 people in that class, and they all were really good. So it was really hard to get that playing time. And so it was a struggle for me. I feel like confidence-wise, I knew that if I wanted to get where I needed to go, I had to keep grinding, and I also was really, really tiny. So I think I was overlooked in that way.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thrown around a lot. So I think just the constant overlooking and just not really people seeing my full potential, it kind of made me want to grind even more.
Yeah.
And I think I'm almost glad that happened because it got me where I ended up being and ended up loving where I was at.
So we're in senior year of high school. How do we make the decision on the school and knowing you want to make that leap and go so far from home?
Yeah, so I didn't really get many options in the Midwest that really I was interested in.
Yeah.
They just weren't really my fit. So my 5 official visits, they were all on like the East Coast and Northeast. And so whenever I went, the first one was the University of Vermont. And initially, the head coach was not, I didn't really vibe with him that much.
Okay.
And the head coach that I played with for 5 years, she was the assistant at the time. And he ended up leaving. And I wasn't really talking to Vermont. They actually offered me over the phone because they saw a YouTube highlight. The old coach DM'd me on Twitter and was like, "Can I talk to you on the phone?" Literally offered me on the phone. So I had never been.
Okay.
And Vermont's 15 hours from Indiana, so really, really far. So I never visited before my official. And the assistant coach, when she came to be the head coach, I was so burnt out from the recruiting process because like all the phone calls and the stress. And so I wasn't the best at talking on the phone. And she was like, "I totally understand." From that moment, it was just like she totally understood. She wasn't pushing. She was just like, "If you can come visit, like just come visit."
Yeah.
And so we really didn't talk much on the phone. I think we maybe talked once on the phone before. They were the first on my list because I was kind of like, get that first one out of the way because I didn't really talk with them much.
Yeah.
And once I got there, immediately the family atmosphere. I actually ended up not going to any of my other visits and I committed 3 days later.
Wow.
Yeah. The girls were great. And actually the coaches that were there on my visit, and like, you know how there's some coaching changes and there were new ones by the time I left, but the assistants and obviously my head coach at the time, they ended up being like my parents away from home. Like the one guy coach, he was like my second dad.
Wow.
So, but I immediately felt that vibe within the first 10 minutes of talking to them.
Yeah.
So genuine. There weren't a lot of bells and whistles. The University of Vermont didn't have a super nice gym. They promised a new facility, and because of COVID, it didn't end up happening. So if you look it up, it's like an older historic gym.
Yeah.
But it kind of like brought in people with good character. It's because they wanted to go there because of the people, not because of like the bells and whistles, if that makes sense.
Right.
Academics were great. It's a public Ivy, so it was a really good school academically, and location, it's absolutely beautiful. I recommend Burlington, Vermont for anybody that's never been, especially in the fall time. Beautiful. So ultimately that led to my decision. I was her first ever commit as a head coach.
Love that.
She like literally started crying. And that's my girl. Like she's going to be at my wedding and we still catch up to this day. But it's like I kind of knew that by the end of that visit. It's just I had a feeling it was going to be like that. So
would there be any advice you'd give to those up and comings when choosing a school to go to or what to look out for, anything like that?
Yes, I feel like you need to trust your gut and don't try and go somewhere because of the name per se. Like when I went there, it was kind of like their team wasn't good and I wanted to play. And she put that trust in me, and I at the time, like I told you, I was being overlooked by a lot of people. And she was like, "I'm gonna be investing that trust into you, and I want you to help turn around this program, and you're gonna make mistakes. Obviously you have to earn it, but I'm entrusting you with this program." And you could tell like the genuineness, and I think just reading people and just seeing them for who they are, I don't know. You don't want to just like the moment they say something, you just like grab onto that.
Exactly.
You kind of have to like feel it out the whole visit and hear it from other coaches, just the genuineness of everybody. Because I think that there were some people that were promising a lot, but you can just tell it was like they were trying to sell me, but they just seemed really genuine. So just really try to read the room. If the team's really, really good, chances are you're probably not going to get a bunch of playing time in the beginning. Obviously, you'd have to work, and that's fine. But if you're wanting to play from the beginning, like, you got to understand, like, what you're walking into. Also, a big piece of advice I would give is understand what the structure of the offense is and the defense. Some people commit to places, and they don't fit within the structure. And I've noticed that a lot in my 5 years of basketball. And that's why a lot of people transfer, because their style of play does not fit into the coach's structure, but it would fit into, like, another team's perfect. So I would say, like, that's another big thing.
I think that's huge. What you talked on is honesty, and you have to be able to read that. And sometimes it's just trusting your gut with, you're going to get told some big promises and things like that, and just being able to know, like you said, a coach saying, you know, we don't have maybe the best program right now, but we're going to get there, and I know you can. And just having those upfront conversations, I think, helps a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And then maybe if it's a really good program, but you've always wanted to go to that really good program, I would just, like, maybe if they're promising, oh, you're getting this playing time, like, don't take it, like, take it at face value, but understand, like, the chances of that are really hard, and especially in a really good program. So just understand it's going to take a long grind, and most freshmen don't play a whole bunch. And just be ready to do whatever you need for the team your freshman year. Like, you're going to be out of your comfort zone. You're maybe going to be in a position that you don't normally play. Maybe you're going to be the role player. Maybe you're going to be doing the dirty work. But whatever you can do to get on that floor, understanding that it might be out of your comfort zone, but you got to do whatever it takes for the team. And you kind of have to go outside yourself to do that. And it's a really hard for, like, the pride and the ego, because in your senior year, you're top dog. And then you go and you're a freshman, and bottom of the totem pole, you got to work your way up. You got to earn your teammates' respect. You got to earn coaches' respect and trust. So doing the little things and not just assuming that you're granted that role, even though the coaches did tell you you could get there, not assuming that, okay, immediately I'm going to get that. Like, it takes a lot of work.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So we've moved through high school. We've made the decision to go to Vermont. Tell me about college. What was freshman year like? What was the team like? Did you automatically come in and mesh? Was it something you had to build?
Yeah, so freshman year was a little difficult. I mean, coming in, the team was not very good. But there were pieces. There were really good pieces. It was just, I think, you know, I think the coach before, like, there wasn't really a good meshing with the girls, and I think that maybe there were some bad apples that they had to kind of, like, get out of to create a good culture. They needed to kind of get rid of some bad apples, and I think that there were maybe just some, like, there's girl drama everywhere, but I think that there was just a little bit of that we needed to kind of weed out and, like, get to the bottom of. And you also need to bring in people that, you know, even though they get the scholarship, they're still in the gym putting in the extra work. It's like, okay, you already reached your goal. Like, how can you set a new goal and not be satisfied? So really creating a culture of people that not only you've made it, but now you want to win. Like, you want to go to March Madness. You don't just want to be content with, like, where you're at and being, like, middle of the pack or kind of in the lower part of the conference. And I think when my class came in, it was kind of, we were turning that around, and you saw more people in the gym, and that was an amazing sight. And I think my head coach did a really good job at trying to understand each person and how to bring the best out of each person. She's an amazing head coach because of that. And I think the best leaders do that. And if you're a head coach, you have to do that. You can't think that your coaching style is going to work for everyone. And so I think you have to understand certain personalities, certain people you're going to need to get on and yell at, and certain people, like, you're going to get the best out of them if you pull them to the side and you actually explain it. And you're not just, like, barking orders, but some people need that. So I think it definitely took a while. In my freshman year, I was able to start the first game, and I started every game since then for 5 years. And she just trusted me. I made so many mistakes. So many games I turned the ball over 7 times. It was a huge learning process, but I had some older players that trusted me and believed in me. The whole coaching staff believed in me. And I think that turned me into a completely different player. The confidence when you feel like everybody around you trusts you
Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it?
And it can make or break a college experience.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I was blessed enough to be able to be in a program where I could make mistakes and stay in. But that's not always the case.
It is not.
And I'm very aware that I was in a very rare situation.
Yeah.
Very, very rare. And it's like there were kind of issues, I think, just like building the team culture and like fixing some things. Obviously, that came with, there were growing pains. But I think overall, just to have a coaching staff that allowed me to grow that much in my freshman year and like wasn't mad, it was patient, like kind about it. Like, it was just very, very encouraging. So I think moving forward, it set that really good standard. And then we brought in even better people and with the same culture, recruiting got better. And then it's just the culture changed. And then ultimately, obviously, my senior year, not my fifth year, but my fourth year, we won the America East and got to go to March Madness. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
An incredible experience that not a lot of athletes get to experience.
No.
That's amazing. Talk to me about the different grind of a D1 athlete.
Oh my gosh. It's a lot. It is a lot. And it's a big change for a lot of people. Because if you are in a hard major or just, I don't know, just like college academics in general, the time management piece is the biggest adjustment.
Yeah.
It's figuring out like how to mark out some parts of your day for academics, putting in extra work because you want to play, you want to get all the playing time, you want to be a leader. So you have to be in the gym doing extra work. You're doing a 3-hour practice. You're going in an hour before doing treatment. Then you have an hour lift after practice. And then you got to hurry up, get changed, go to class, actually be alert, actually take in the information. And then you got to go build your social life after that. And then you need to sleep and then you need to eat. And you need to eat good food, not fast food. Like
the important things.
Oh my gosh, it took a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And for some people, it takes them their entire freshman year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes people a semester. It's different for everyone. But for me, the summer session, like the grades in those summer classes, they did not set me up good. I did myself dirty.
We'll put them over here.
We'll just not talk about that. But it definitely taught me a lot. And I will say, like, now wherever I go, I'm 10 minutes early. I am time managing my day. I love to plan things out because of college basketball.
Yeah.
So I will say it taught me a lot that I did not have those skills before. In high school Emma was not doing that. So yeah.
No, I love that. You learn a lot and you learn it quickly.
Yes.
And you got to get with it or...
real quick. And they're like, we're going to leave you behind if you don't pick it up.
No,
so
100%.
Yeah.
Talk to me about team chemistry.
Yeah.
Was it, being with a large group of girls, it's tough. You might not always get along, but just knowing, like you said, that people have your back is super important. So coming into that program, knowing that you were going to be helping rebuild, what was your mindset with building that team chemistry?
Yeah, I think when when you come in and you're getting a lot of minutes and you're able to make mistakes, but you're staying in the game. Like sometimes there can be some friction with people, and you have girls that they're not really getting that playing time, and they really want that playing time. They're seeing that you're making mistakes, but you're staying in the game, but they can't even get in the game. Like, and I understand that side, like I really do. So I like felt for them, but it was kind of like, I still enjoy that I was able to get that experience too. So it made for a weird situation sometimes because sometimes those girls could be your friend.
Yeah.
And it made it a little hard at times, but I think just having open and honest conversations with your friends and just being there for them because you're having different college experiences and just like being very sensitive about that. And it taught me a lot of like, being more aware and making sure you're not boasting or maybe even complaining about certain things because it's kind of like, okay, you're staying in the game. Actually, I don't even want to hear it. So it's like valid. Like actually valid. But I think I would say by my junior year, the culture was so good. And overall, every year, they're just great people. But it's just everybody we were sisters. We were a unit. We were together. And like I had said before, how a coach needs to understand one another, your leaders need to understand one another, like even just teammates. And my senior year, we had all started going to a sports psychologist as a team, and we were really understanding what each person needed on the court. That way a teammate wasn't screaming at a girl, but she really just needed support in that moment.
Yeah.
And knowing what certain cues are. And I think when you really understand, there's not as much confusion, and you're not like reading a person wrong. So you're not thinking that someone's mad at you. You're not thinking that someone's pissed at you. They're really pissed at themselves for what they just did. Or because for me, like, I would never be hard on my teammates. I was their biggest cheerleader. I was always hard on myself. So if I looked pissed, I was mad at myself. So it was good for them to hear that.
Yeah.
And also a reminder for me, I need to check I wear my emotions on my face. So it's like, I need to check myself as a leader. They can't be thinking about how I'm feeling. I need to like work on my emotions, because they shouldn't be overthinking me. Like, they need to be worried about their game and, not worrying about if I'm upset with them, whatever. And I'm an overthinker. So I think for me, hearing, other teammates, if they're reacting a certain way, has nothing to do with me.
Yes.
But don't take it personally. So it really helped. And so I think my senior year, we went on a 17-game win streak. It was like one of the longest in the NCAA, like Division I at the time, just because we were understanding one another. We were understanding teams were going to go on runs. Like, there was just a huge calmness to our team because the chemistry was so good. And off the court, we did everything together.
Yeah.
Girls were coming over. We were having Taco Tuesdays. We were doing game nights. Like, if we went to dinner, all of us were going to dinner. If there wasn't cliques, it was so good. And again, that's very, very rare.
Yeah.
Like, my sister played college basketball, did not have that experience. She went to a new place and then it was better. But like, she didn't have that experience. So I'm very, very blessed. But when it's good, it was, I think college basketball, it can be really, really good. And I don't know, just like a really good experience for people. And you learn a lot about yourself and how to like work with others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned a sports psychologist, and I want to kind of circle back a little bit about that. Who made that decision? What is it? A coaching staff led you guys in that direction, or how did that come about?
Coaching staff. And this is, again, why I love my coach. I'm her biggest fan. I love her. Coach Kress, shout out. Because she cares so much about bringing out the best of people and trying to understand. And in her mind, a lot of us were really, really hard on ourselves. And it was like, we were never hard on any of each other. It was, we were all like, we wouldn't work together because we were all in our own heads at times. It wasn't because we didn't trust the person next to us. Yeah. We trusted someone more than we did ourselves. And she was aware of that. And so she was like, y'all need to go get some help together. And we had a sports psychologist, but we never did it as a team. It was kind of like, okay, seek them out if you're struggling.
Gotcha.
But then she was like, no, it's time for you all. So the guy's name was Matt. So we'd have Matt Mondays. And every Monday, all season, we would sit with him for 30 minutes before practice, and it was great. Oh, wow. Yeah, it was really great.
Was there any apprehension or anybody a little nervous to do something like that?
Yeah, the more introverted girls, it was a little bit more difficult for them, but maybe if they didn't speak as much in like a certain lesson or a specific day, hearing what their teammates are feeling, it definitely helped them. It's like, even if they didn't want to speak, it was nice to hear what their teammates were feeling. So like, it helped ease their nerves and their overthinking in their brain too. Yeah. Yeah.
I think having those kind of resources is amazing.
Yeah.
And hoping that it's on the up for more athletes to have access to, because you learn those skills, and we'll talk about this later, but these are things that you will translate into life.
Oh, 100%.
And so I think it's huge to have that.
I agree.
Can we talk about COVID a little bit?
Oh my gosh. It feels like a fever dream.
Yeah. 100%.
It really does. Like, so Vermont, they were really strict. They were really, really strict about it. But obviously rightfully so. It was intense. But we actually only played 6 games in the COVID year. Okay. And that's how I got my 5th year back. Like, it had gotten to a point where at one time, like, the team, like, certain people would get it, and like, you'd be in quarantine because you were with someone that got it, and then you would be going to test with a group of people like in a house, and then someone in that house would get it. So then everybody else would have to go another week. So one time I was in quarantine for 2.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And then our entire program shut down for a month. And we were like, we're not even going to be able to play enough games to get into the tournament or the playoffs. So it was like, we really didn't want to try just to play games, but then like perhaps go back into quarantine again for no reason.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to risk it again, because at that point people had been in quarantine for 2.5 weeks at a time, but before that, like a week here, a week there. And it was really mentally hard working out with the masks. Like, oh, it was terrible. Like the conditioning with the masks and like the mask knee. Oh, so bad. It was so bad. But I think it was a mentally challenging thing. But I do think that it brought up a lot of like adversity.
Yeah.
And I think it made the next season, like there was so much passion around the next season. So I guess that was good. And it made you appreciate the game more, because it shows you that it can't be taken from you. So
100%, and a great lesson. Did you ever have any homesickness away from being at home, and who was kind of your support system besides your coaching staff that you could lean on?
Yeah. So that's actually a great question. I was very homesick in the beginning, but I had a home away from home. So my best friend, we played AAU together starting at 5th grade, and we actually committed on the same day to the University of Vermont. Played AAU all growing up together. Her name's Delaney, and she was like my piece of home in Vermont. So it really helped when I moved 15 hours away. She was too. So we very much bonded over that. And our parents would visit at the same time, and I'm very, very close with her family. She's very close with mine. So it's like her parents would send care packages and baked goods, and her grandma would send cookies. And it was just so cute. And like when we were on our 17-game win streak and we were hosting the tournaments, like our conference tournament, our parents, they rented a van and drove together.
You love them.
And they went to every single game. They would drive back and then drive 15 hours again. Like they would fly. They were just so supportive. And but I think it would have been a lot harder if I didn't have her and her family as well, because it is so far and it's such a big thing to be on your own and be independent, college in general, but to be that far away where like you can't go home for a home cooked meal or anything. And it's not just like a 3-hour drive. It's a whole event.
Yeah.
It's a whole trip. Like that was really hard. So
can we talk about NIL? You were introduced in that realm in college. What was hearing about it? What did that mean for you? Were you confused?
Yeah, I was a little confused at first, but I thought it was a great idea. I will say they passed it really quickly, so there is a lot of loopholes that still need to be fixed. I think that it can be bettered, but I will say, I mean, athletes should have been able to benefit for a while. They should have always been able to benefit off of their name and image. But I'm glad that they finally passed that. Obviously, like I said, there's loopholes, and now there's certain things that they can kind of get a little out of hand. And I think there needs to be certain modifications to where the history of basketball can kind of stay the same, where it's not just all about money. It's kind of like you're still going to a place because you enjoy going to that. Like you enjoy that place, you enjoy the people. It's not just because they're giving you a lot of money. Let me just say that. But I will say, NIL for me, the biggest thing that I got from that was actually being more rooted in the community. It allowed me to start clinics, camps. That was way better than any like monetary, any other brand deal that I got with like a big brand. Yeah. Because it brought the younger girls into the community more, in the basketball community, because basketball is not a really big thing in Vermont, and there's no pro teams. So there's no pro basketball. So the University of Vermont was kind of like their pro sports. And before, my freshman year, there was maybe 200 people in the gym. And by the end, when we were playing in the WNIT, we were like, we were selling out the gym.
Oh, wow.
It was great. And it was because, I was being able to get in the community and like really be able to inspire and help the younger generation. And I found a passion in doing that. Like, I kind of found my purpose and why I play basketball. Obviously for me, it's for God first and foremost, but then it was also to inspire the younger generation and push them to one day want to be in my shoes as well. So.
And if you don't mind, I know that faith is very important to you in your life. If we could talk about that for a little bit, how was that through college, and were you able to openly have, your spirituality in that program, things like that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think my program did a really good job at accepting everybody's beliefs. I think in college, you're trying to figure yourself out. There's a lot of growing to do in college. You're away from home. I think there was times where it was very easy to drift.
Yes.
You have so many different priorities, and it's easy to make excuses and to drift from God, or when you're going through things to try and handle it yourself and you want to be in control.
Yes.
But I think as I've gotten older and now that I'm done with basketball, I realized like every time that I put God first and I trusted in God in my basketball career, I was at the most peace. I was playing my best basketball. I was, my friendships were the best they ever were. I was the best teammate, friend, daughter, sister, because I was at peace. I wasn't overthinking life. That peace that you get, and it just makes you an overall better person because you look outside yourself.
Yep.
And I think it's very, very easy in basketball and NIL to make it about you and your success, and your worth is based on your success and your identity, which is something that I think I've struggled with post basketball because it's so easy to make it your identity.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing even more so now, like, that's become an issue. And, that's honestly one of the biggest pieces of advice I will give is you can't put your identity in your success and to how good of a basketball player you are, because at the end of the day, like, your identity is in Christ. And, he already knows your worth, and, like, you don't need to prove it to anybody else or yourself. Like, you're already perfectly made. So, through him. But that's something that's really hard to learn. And I still struggle with that too. So.
Yeah. It's an ever-growing thing.
Yeah.
So we've made it in. You had a tremendous career in college. I don't want to skirt over that. But we're graduating, and what are those steps? Are we scared to kind of tackle life after sports? Are you ready to go take it on?
So I was ready. I was initially thinking about doing overseas, but I think I was like, I had a great college career. I did everything that I wanted to do. And I really had been away from family for so long, and I was like, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
It's time to I wanted to stay in sports, but do it in a different way. And I think for me, it was kind of like really, really hard. I almost deal with it before I know it's happening, to where like I get the emotions out, to where like when the chapter changes, I'm just like, okay, moving forward.
Yeah.
But I will say the biggest challenge, like I had just said, was struggling with my identity post sports, in that it's kind of like, what's my next biggest passion? Because all it was basketball.
Yeah.
My whole life was basketball from when I can remember. I just was always playing basketball and loving it. So that's been the biggest struggle, but I am very excited for the next chapter. So yeah.
And you are in the social media realm and things like that. How has that been for you navigating, and where do you want to see yourself with that?
Yeah, so I think sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, like always being in the camera, and like when you're trying to grow your brand, not posting too much and not doing too much and not being cringy. Like that's a whole thing that I struggle with, because I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't want people to be weird with me in person, and you know what I mean? It's just kind of odd, like, talking in front of a camera sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think, in my mind, like, staying in sports, I love the sports representation on social media. I think it's brought more attention to sports, specifically women's sports. And, now women's basketball is blowing up, and I want to be a part of that. So
Absolutely.
I know that in order to do that, I need to put myself out there and grow my brand. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Just trying to find out, like, what niche I'm wanting to be in. I think that's where I'm at, but it's a process, and I'm being patient with it. So.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And you've already had some pretty cool opportunities, and it's only gonna go up from here.
Yeah,
so.
I hope so. Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Would you be willing to talk about some of the lessons and advice that you'd have for up and coming former athletes or current athletes, things that kind of helped you?
Yeah, kind of what I touched on before, like one of the biggest things that I've been dealing with now is as I've been growing in my relationship with God, really understanding to not put my identity in basketball, and that like when you move on in life, like it's all about the relationships that you make along the way and the way you make people feel. I think for me, I don't even remember any of the bad practices that I had or anything like that. Sometimes even like the good games, I don't really think about that on the daily. I just miss the times with my friends, the times with my coaches, all those memories. And it's kind of like keep in touch with those people, because I think that is what matters most. Because after basketball, like none of it matters anymore.
Absolutely.
It really doesn't. I mean, maybe your connections. So always be nice to people and be respectful, and because it could really get you into doors someday. But really at the end of the day, just like if you put your identity in God, like he's going to lead you to your next purpose in life, and just trust that, and everything's going to be okay. But I will say, as I'm giving this advice, I'm struggling with this right now. So it's like a whole work in progress. But yeah, it's easy to be hard on yourself because you're kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'm not as worthy because, or I'm not as important because I'm not doing something amazing on the basketball court, but you'll find your purpose in something else. So
no, I mean, that's extremely hard too, is you're getting those fans cheering for you, getting those little kids and those parents, and where we just love watching you and everything. And then you're going into everyday life where no one knows who you are, what you're doing, the accomplishments, the 1,000 points I just hit, things like that. And you gotta, it's weird because it sounds like, okay, shut down your ego, but it's also like, well, that's all I knew. That's what I was used to. And like, just being able to have those basketball conversations, and you're like, well, this stranger doesn't care about that.
Yeah. And they have no idea. They don't care. And it's just like, I don't know. I think for me, when you play basketball, you have to almost have a little bit of an ego to like be a dog on the court, Like you gotta be confident in order to like do what you really, if you want to do well, like you gotta have that confidence piece to you. So it's kind of like, that builds a little bit of the ego. Like you're playing well, you're on cloud nine, like, like you said, like you're building the community. You've been at a place for 5 years. So the community knows you, people respect you. And then you go back home, you haven't been there for 5 years. And it's just like starting over from ground zero. And, and it's not like you're starting over from ground zero, but you're still in basketball again. Oh no, you're in the real world where literally no one knows or cares what you've done. Maybe you run into someone that watched you play in high school, but it's just like they really don't care. And it's a very, very humbling experience, but it's something that I think it's like a good thing to go through because it's good to be humbled in that sense, and really like how good you put a ball through a hoop, like it really doesn't matter. So
would you say any of those things from basketball though that you took out of it and you use now or plan to use, just kind of those skills?
Oh yeah, I think just being a leader, I think it taught me a lot of leadership qualities, being a team player, trying to understand people. And I struggle with this sometimes because like you, in your mind, you have an idea of how you would want someone to act, but you have to really put yourself in their shoes and really understand in order to be a good leader and to be a good teammate and friend. So I think that is a big thing that basketball taught me. And also just like working hard for what you want. I think it's like one thing to say you want to do something and then you don't, like, okay, maybe one day, or like the grind that comes with like setting goals and really, really being dedicated to meeting those goals. It's like taught me hard work, waking up early, sacrificing certain things. That it's taught me that a lot. And I am so thankful for that because I think, I maybe be like a little bit lazier, maybe like, I don't know, like now with work, I have to wake up even earlier to maybe get a workout. And it's like, it's taught me that in order to get what I want, like I have to do things like that. So yeah, it just looks a little bit different now.
Is there anything on the opposite end that you found yourself like having to reel in? Like, for me personally, it was finding balancing between, working out and being easier on myself or something like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I struggled with a little bit was like, you know, when you're a college athlete, it's there like, eat whatever. Yeah. Literally eat whatever. It doesn't have to be healthy. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't really matter. Just eat. And I think just body positivity, when you know in your mind you're not doing a 3-hour practice, and that's a huge mental thing. But still, like, you know, being nice to your body. I think, and also in basketball, you're always thinking like, how can I be better? This isn't good enough. I got to work on this, which although that is a blessing and it makes you a better basketball player because you're always trying to work on things, and just in person, like in life, like you want to be able to work on things. But on the flip side, giving yourself grace and being nice to yourself is, I think, you know, I was really hard on myself in basketball, and I was a huge overthinker and like being good enough. And sometimes like because basketball's gone, it's now like I'm looking for ways to do that just like about myself.
Yes.
And it's something that I definitely need to work on. Just being a little too hard on myself and taking it way too seriously. Yeah, I would say that's it.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of former, current athletes struggle with, is just finding that balance of, hey, I want to do better. I know I can do better, but also it's okay.
Yeah.
Soak in those wins, whether it's in life, work, just anything.
Yeah.
But also it's okay to still want a little more, but stay in the present.
Yes. And I think a big thing too, and so one of my coaches, she played college basketball, and the biggest thing she said is, when you're done playing basketball, remember, you don't need to always work out every day like you are a college athlete still. Like in my mind, I think that I have to be in the gym for 3 hours and running on a treadmill for an hour straight in order to like actually feel something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's actually not good for your body all the time. Like it's okay if some days you need to go for a walk or actually give yourself a rest day. Like in basketball, it was very, very odd to give yourself a rest day. You still needed to go in the gym, get some shots up, and like always kind of be doing something to grow your game. And so I think that like not having that pressure of like actually working out like a college athlete.
Yeah.
You're getting older, like gotta be nice to your body, like all those things.
Things are creaking.
And but also like figuring out what workouts, because it was just like you're on a court, you're playing basketball, like what workouts are fun for me. Like what, and for me it's kind of been I love to run, so it's been that. I signed up for my first mini marathon. It's like finding new things to kind of like goals to work towards. And then I also really like heated Pilates. That's been like, so it's like I just gotta figure those things out. I don't know. It's been fun figuring it out though.
I need to get on the heated Pilates trend.
Oh, it's great. Oh, it's so good.
I do like regular, well, just YouTube and stuff like that, but my friend does heated and she's always recommending it, so I need to get on that.
Oh, you sweat like crazy. Like actual crazy. Just warning.
We're gonna get you out of here, wrap it up, but I just wanted to end on what advice that you would give to former athletes if you had the chance.
Yeah, I think just be kind to yourself in the transition. Be patient. It's gonna take time. The chapter, it's a brand new chapter. It's unlike one that you're used to because there's no basketball.
Yep.
It's not you're going from high school to college, but it's still basketball. You're actually just really moving on and you're becoming an actual adult, going in the real world. So it's going to take a very long time, but just give yourself grace. And I would say, me personally, like I just lean on God and lean on your faith or whatever you believe in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming,
spending
time with me, and I know my audience will love everything that you had to say. So
awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to tell
me? No, that's it. Yeah.
And we're done.